This double bar chart indicates irrigation potential created and utilized in major and medium irrigation projects in India from pre-plan era to 9th five-year plan. According to this double bar chart, gap between created and utilized irrigation potential is negligible in pre-plan and first, second and third five-year plan. The gap between irrigation potential created and utilizes is steadily increasing and highest during 8th and 9th five-year plan. The chart indicates that efficiency in exploiting created irrigation potential is decreasing steadily from first five-year plan to 9th five-year plan. This bar chart depicts the percentage of private sector infrastructure investment in India in 2012, percentage of total investment. Ports and telecommunications received the most private sector investment, followed by airports, energy, and road and bridge construction. Railways have attracted the least amount of private investment. Ports and telecommunications have drawn more private investment than trains because they are more available to private investment. This picture depicts the distribution of water over the Earth. There is 98% salt water and just 2% fresh in the world's water, according to the graph. In terms of fresh water, ice accounts for 87% of the total, with groundwater accounting for the remaining 13%. Only 1% of land is covered by waterways like rivers and lakes. Finally, the figure shows the distribution of water resources in a clear and concise manner. How hydroelectric power is created from the sea to residential and industrial sectors is shown in this diagram. To begin with, the sun's heat evaporates seawater. When it rains, the water from the clouds evaporates and falls to the ground. These reservoirs are then enclosed by a dam, storing the water. Valves regulate the amount of water that flows out of the reservoir. It is possible to generate mechanical energy by leaving the valve open. Underground wires transport the electric energy generated by the turbine to nearby homes and businesses. As a whole, hydroelectric energy generation has multiple steps. The graph depicts the product life cycle for sales through time, as seen by the data points. The graph clearly shows that there is a significant rise from intro to growth. From growth to maturity, the graph shows that there is an increase. The graph shows that from maturity to decline, there is a drop in the rate of change. In the end, the most people may be found in their late 20s and 30s. Azerbaijan and its environs are depicted on this map. There is a star next to Baku to indicate that it is Azerbaijan's capital city. Azerbaijan also includes Nagorno-Karabakh and Nakhchivan as additional territories. Iran, Armenia, Georgia, and Russia border Azerbaijan to the country's left. On the right, you'll see the Caspian Sea. Azerbaijan is surrounded by a number of nations. China's power generation by type is shown in billion kilowatt-hours on this graph from 1994 to 2004. Conventional thermal electricity generated in 1994 was roughly 750 billion kilowatt-hours, which quadrupled in 2004 to around 1,500 billion kilowatt-hours of electricity. In 1994, hydroelectric power generated 150 billion kilowatt-hours, which increased to 400 billion kilowatt-hours in 2004. From 1994 to 2004, the generation of both conventional thermal electricity and hydroelectric electricity grew significantly. Students who majored in art after graduation are shown in a pie graph. Full-time or part-time employment accounted for 70% of the graduates' employment, with 40% and 30% of the total. The remaining 30% of graduates were enrolled in some form of post-secondary education, with 10% pursuing part-time studies and the remaining 20% pursuing full-time studies. Overall, it appears that the majority of graduates found work, while a third of students returned to school. The graph provides data on music sales. The graph shows that in terms of absolute numbers, 2000 had the biggest amount, at over 20 billion. Around 8 billion people were alive in 2015, which is the lowest amount yet recorded. The graph shows that in terms of digital users, 2017 had the biggest number, at almost 8 billion. In 2005, the smallest number is about 0.0. Music revenues are depicted on a graph shown below. The pie chart depicts the average Australian readership in various forms of reading material. Despite reading 50% of articles on the internet, just 20% of books, and 10% of newspapers and periodicals, Australians are among the world's most voracious readers. In general, items on the internet are read more often than those in periodicals. The pie charts compare the proportion of carbohydrates, protein and fat in 3 different diets, namely an average diet, a healthy diet, and a healthy diet for sport. It is noticeable that sports people require a diet comprising a significantly higher proportion of carbohydrates than an average diet or a healthy diet. The average diet contains the lowest percentage of carbohydrates but the highest proportion of protein. To summarize, carbohydrates will remain as the major factor in a diet for individuals, with approximately half of vital nutrients. From 2000 to 2004, the following graph shows data on adult literacy by region. As can be seen, Latin America and the Caribbean have the highest percentage, with 89% of girls and 91% of men. Asia has the second highest percentage, with girls reporting 73% and males reporting 86%. Sub-Saharan Africa, on the other hand, has the least number, with 53% of girls and 79% of men. In conclusion, males in all regions had a higher adult literacy rate than females. The graph shows information about hospitalizations for schizophrenia in general hospitals per 100,000 by age group in Canada from 1999 to 2000. According to the graph, it is clear to see that when we look at females, the largest number can be found in 45 to 49 years old, which is around 120. The smallest number can be found in 1 to 4 years old, which is around 0. According to the graph, it is clear to see that when we look at males, the largest number can be found in 35 to 39 years old, which is around 180. The smallest number can be found in 1 to 4 years old, which is around 0. In conclusion, this graph shows information about hospitalizations. Coal-fired power plants and the homes they serve are depicted in this diagram. In this process, you will come into contact with things like coal, a power plant, a transformer, transmission lines across the country, a substation, and several other structures. Coal is burnt at a power plant, and the resulting heat is sent to a transformer. After that, the electricity is transported over the national transmission lines and collected at a substation. Power finally reaches homes and businesses around the city. The proportion of aileron detections by operating system may be seen in the pie chart. XPSP3 accounts for 64.8% of all installations. Windows 7 and Vista SP1 had the lowest percentages, with 3.5% and 3.8%, respectively. Windows 7 and Vista SP1 had the lowest percentages, while XPSP3 had the highest. There are two types of eclipses, total and partial. To create a black shadow in a total eclipse, the moon blocks the sun's light. An umbra is a shadow that is completely darkened. An area termed the penumbra, where the shadow falls, is shadowed to a lesser extent during a partial eclipse. A total eclipse occurs only in a tiny region of Earth, but a partial eclipse occurs over a considerably broader area of the planet. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is depicted graphically here. It's evident from the graph that this is the case. On the left, we can see a vast structure in white, we can see pillars in grey, we can see a lot of white. It's evident from the graph that this is the case. In the picture's central area we notice a blue sky, residences, and golden hues in the foreground. As seen in the graph, this is evident. White may be seen near Pisa's famous Leaning Tower, which is seen to the right of the image. It's evident from the graph that this is the case. Grass and greenery may be seen at the bottom of the image. Final thoughts, a helpful image. Photograph of a country road in the woods with a building on the left side taken in the autumn. Forested areas are covered in yellow leaves, with occasional ferns and green grass. In the distance, the road disappears from view. On this beautiful day, the rusted and unpainted structure on the left looks abandoned. It seems to be a rural road in the United States during late September or early October, when the leaves are beginning to change color. The geological picture is of the Earth divided into 3D cross-sections. There are several layers shown in the picture with different color shades. The blue layer is called atmosphere, whereas just after that the layer is called crust. If we go even deeper, the mantle layer forms the middle portion of the Earth, and the innermost portion is made of the outer and inner core. There is also a triangle-shaped section that describes the layers in detail. The uppermost layer is labeled with oceanic crust and continental crust, followed by the upper mantle. The mantle runs further down to meet the outer core of the Earth. Overall, we can conclude that the Earth is made up of many layers of different sizes. This is a map that illustrates the various climatic zones for temperature and humidity for Australia. The greatest region of the nation has a hot, dry summer with a chilly winter, which is denoted by yellow. The smallest section of the nation is covered with blue, which signifies that it has a cold temperature. Overall, the majority of Australia enjoys hot summers and chilly winters, whereas a tiny section has solely cool temps.